Hello, class. The topic that I chose to discuss is resistance to change. Throughout all of this organizational change management, they give you tips on how to implement change or how to keep the vision alive or how to this, that, and the other. But the one part that I found most interesting was the resistance to change, how there's both positive and negative, and how to foresee those things coming up and then ultimately how to handle them. I don't think there's any real guidelines, but this is what I could come up with. I hope you guys enjoy. So, first, I chose to define organizational change management. Organizational change management is a framework for managing the effect of new business processes, changes in organizational structure, or cultural changes within an enterprise. So we've all experienced organizational change within our companies, or maybe we've seen it or whatnot. But I felt it was good to just define what we're looking at here and what we're trying to talk about. So again, I chose resistance to change. Some of the positives that came across were security. It whenever you're making positive changes or you see a positive resistance, it's people find that, oh, there's job security. Maybe these changes are good because they will make sure that I have a job for a longer period of time. Then we come to money. I mean, we all want that monetary gain. So anytime changes are being made for the positive, or at least in our eyes as a positive, we might be able to see value coming in money. Authority, with change in rank structures or maybe structure of the organization itself, there may be growth opportunities. Maybe you finally get that promotion that you've been looking for. And then of course status would be more like job title, I would think. um that could be a change in the organization where maybe we didn't have an actual title for what it is that you're doing, and now we have that title. So again, that could be a positive change. um some of the negatives were the innate dislike of change. I mean, we all know that change is difficult, and nobody really likes change initially, I think. um but some of us are a little more flexible than others. But I mean, overall, change is hard, and there's gonna be some negative resistance, and I think that's what this one's trying to say. Then there's the low tolerance of uncertainty. I think on some level we all fear the unknown. um, and then there's this is not in my interest. In some cases, when change comes, it may help other departments, but it may become more of a hassle for your department. So maybe that wasn't considered when this change was made. So you're a little bit more, resistant to the change in that negative capacity because of that. And then, of course, there's the attachment to organizational culture. Anytime you start a job with a company, you start to realize what the company culture is, and if this change goes away from that, it could be hard to deal with. And of course, there were too many to put on one slide, so this next slide will be the same. Positives. It may increase your responsibility level. Maybe you have, more things that fall under your stead, and you're in charge of more things, which gives you room to grow. Maybe challenges you. Better conditions, and this could be anything from your overall work environment to new equipment that you have, or anything that may make your life easier within the workplace. And then, of course, self satisfaction. You feel achieve. You accomplish something. Um, all these positive changes might help you. Get a little bit more self satisfaction out of your day to day job. And then, of course, personal context. I mean, we always hear about networking and trying to involve people and meet new people and put your name out there and basically a verbal people person to person resume type thing. You know, you're just putting your portfolio out there and reaching out to these contacts because you never know what might happen in the time to come. And then these are the negatives: perceived breach of psychological contract, the lack of conviction, lack of clarity, and the perception of timing. So I will touch on psychological contract, but here in a second. Um, Lack of conviction. Maybe you're just not convinced that this is the right change. So that could have negative. The lack of clarity. Sometimes you're not resistant to the change and you don't see it as a negative, but it hasn't been clear as to how the change is to come about. And then perception of timing. Let's say it is a good change and everything's going good, but right now is not the right time. We got too much going on. There's too much on our plate. We can't really afford to continue to make changes at this point. Uh, then, of course, I like to be, a little bit of an overachiever, and I do things differently. So I did interview my manager as part of my final, just because I wanted to be able to compare textbook to real life application. I mean, he's been in the business for 27 years and he's seen ups and downs, and he actually started off as a technician in the tool service, so he has a different approach and perspective on some of these topics. So here's his personal information, and then here's the things that he had to say. So when I was asking him about positive resistance, he kind of scopes this into his lens of um, what he sees, moving, within the company. So he always uses this phrase, if the team wins, I win. So, he explained it to me in the way that, when changes come and he has to implement these changes, he takes it upon himself to learn these changes, um, to kind of work through some of the kinks, and then he delivers it to the team a little bit by little, little by little, uh, setting small goals along the way, so that way whenever we do complete the whole thing, we have that sense of accomplishment throughout, you know the phases of completing the overall vision. So then, we feel accomplished and we feel like we win. And then upper management, sees what he's done and they say, hey, man, you're doing a good job. So then in turn, he feels that he wins. So then some of the negative resistances that he spoke about was, and from his personal experience, is that in this um, company, I guess, in the tool service operation side, he sees, people fall into old habits. You get complacent, you get comfortable with where you're at, so you don't really want to venture outside of that. And then he talked about an employee's approach to change is better than the company's. And this again, I think happens more often than we think. People feel like, oh, I could have done that better, or the way I would have implemented it would have been different because I saw these. And sometimes it's good to let that be known, but other times, you just kind of got to go with the flow. And then he mentioned the lack of caring or overall lack of commitment that he's seen. And then finally, the lack of training. Maybe it's not, you know, people are negative, resistance as far as, oh, we don't want to change and we don't, maybe there just needs to be training that comes along with it. And if we're not trained properly, then it could create issues down the line. And then I did want to talk about a negative resistance that he personally expressed to me early on in his technician days. Their pay scale was based off of time. So after a certain amount of time with the company, you would automatically get a pay raise. And then we switched to a production driven pay scale. And it was right around the time that he was supposed to get a merit increase or a pay increase. And, he felt that that was a psychological breach of contract because he understood that the pay scale went off of timing, time and grade, I guess you would say, and or time of service, time with the company, and they changed it to a productivity driven pay scale, and it really put a damper in his growth with the company. So he expressed that to me, and I thought that was pretty interesting. And then overall, to end it, clearly they're both negative and positive resistance to change. I think it's important that we rely on our gut and our senses of situational leadership. I mean, everything that we're learning here, are tools to help get us, you know, where we need to be. How keep the vision alive, or maybe that to kind of help guide you and keep these things in mind. But I think when it comes down to real life application, you kind of have to go with what and where you're at within the company. I mean, situational leadership. I think it's always important to know your troops. You mean know who's working for you, and what drives your team. These are just things that I feel that we should consider as we go down that road of becoming managers ourselves. And then, of course, these are my references. I know this was short and sweet. I do apologize. I've been going through some personal things this week and last week, and you know, I hope you guys still got what you needed from my PowerPoint. Wish all of you the best in all your future endeavors, and let's just get this done. Have a good one. Bye.